What is good? Welcome to Chatwin Reacts. I'm Jack, your British go, and today we're reacting to every NFL fan base explained in 24 minutes. Another long one, but these ones are where I'm kind of learning more about these sports. You know, it's nice doing all these player highlights and game highlights, which to be honest are my favourite kind of videos on it. But I want to learn these sports, especially before the season starts in a couple months. Like, I want to make sure I know everything I can know. So every NFL fan base, I'll be supporting the Eagles, as I said, so it'd be nice to see what they say about them, and maybe who we hate. That's who I kind of do. As always, before we enter the video, there's three things we've got to do. Number one, you go down below, hit the like button, hit subscribe button to stay up to date to all my videos. Put a goat in the goat chain. Let's go.
History, the Patriots were the unloved stepchild of Boston sports. Until the year 2000, when Bill Belichick and Tom Brady joined forces and turned them into the NFL's version of the Galactic Empire. Over the next 2 decades, they racked up
I still
6
think
Super Bowl
Brady's
titles,
story is
made
crazy.
the Patriot way a buzz phrase,
True
and became the
underdog
league's
to
ultimate
just
villains.
the dog.
And their fans rode that wave. But once Brady left and won another ring in Tampa, Belichick was left holding the bag. Now the Patriots have stumbled into a rebuild, and some fans are suddenly looking sideways at Robert Kraft for letting the dynasty unravel. Still, this is Boston we're talking about. If they go 5-12, Patriots fans will still find a way to act like they're still the team to beat, or will be again soon, and make the rest of the NFL
That's a
roll
good
its eyes.
attitude, though.
The Buffalo Bills. If any franchise embodies heartbreak, it's the Buffalo Bills. In the early 90s, they looked unstoppable, but they're best known for 4 straight Super Bowl losses during that time, a pain no one else can quite fathom. After that, they spent nearly 20 years wandering the desert, missing the playoffs from 2000 to 2016. Then came Josh Allen, who turned them into perennial contenders. But just when it feels like they're on the cusp
I
of
love
something
Josh
big,
Allen.
they come up short in January.
I don't know if
leaving
I'm
Bills
allowed
fans
to,
stuck in a so
but
close
he
yet
is
so
my
far
favourite
loop.
quarterback.
Nothing defines this fan base more than the legendary Bills Mafia.
Which means I probably should be a Bills fan, because I couldn't even
who brave ice storms and heartbreak in equal measure.
I
They
couldn't even
believe,
tell you who the Eagles
sometimes too
quarterback
much,
is.
and wear those crushed tables like badges of honor, hoping the next smash leads to a Lombardi. The New
All
York
I know
Jets.
is that he, well, I
The
don't
Jets have been living
I know
off
he's a
one
black
shining
guy,
moment,
because there was
winning
the big
Super
thing
Bowl
of him,
III in
Mahomes being the first
1969, and it's been downhill ever since.
black quarterbacks
Every
to
so
play against
often,
each
they'll
other.
tease fans with a glimmer of hope, only to bring the pain. Draft busts, bad coaches, bad ownership, and cosmic levels of bad luck define the Jets' experience. Their most recent high point was Mark Sanchez taking them to back-to-back AFC title games, which feels like a century ago. Landing Aaron Rodgers in 2023 sparked a euphoria, until he tore his Achilles 4 snaps into the season. That sums up what it's like rooting for gangrene. If something can go wrong, it probably will, and fast.
They were
Jets
actually
fans
my
are eternally
contender to be a
pessimistic,
team that I was going
forever
to
bracing
support.
for the worst. Their biggest celebrity is Fireman Ed, a guy in a helmet leading JETS chants into the void. The Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins were also on my
Cheering
list.
for the Dolphins is a blend of throwback glory and modern frustration. Older fans still talk about the back-to-back titles in the 70s, the only perfect season in NFL history in 1972, and the Dan Marino fireworks show of the 80s and 90s. But younger fans, they've spent most of their lives waiting for that spark to reignite. Things finally feel a bit exciting again in Miami, with a high-octane offense and Tua Tagovailoa,
Only
who's
because
not
they got
bonking his
my,
head off the ground. But the problem is,
my
when the
favourite wide
temperatures start to
receiver
get
plays
cold,
for
the
Dolphins,
Dolphins freeze.
Tyreek Hill.
That nostalgic aura still hangs over the franchise, but they haven't done enough to tap into it. So every season is a quest to bottle some of that old magic. But if they can't deliver when the weather gets cold, they're going to stay stuck chasing the ghosts of Shula and Marino.
Who's that? I like
The
that
Cincinnati
uniform.
Bengals.
Was that the Panthers?
For decades, the Bengals were in NFL purgatory. Occasional flashes of talent
Might be the
derailed by
Titans,
playoff
actually.
utility and front office bungles. Despite producing stars like Carson Palmer, Chad Johnson, and A.J. Green,
Let Jay
they
Barrows
went
at the moment,
31
didn't they?
years without a single postseason win. Fans started to believe the franchise was downright cursed. Enter Joe Burrow. In just his second season, he led the Bengals to their first Super Bowl appearance in over 30 years, finally shattering those old narratives. And ownership notorious for penny pinching has opened the checkbook for weapons like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Suddenly, the teeth in Cincinnati have real bite. But still, the Bengals fans carry that underdog chip on their shoulder, always feeling overlooked. The only thing that'll truly put them at ease is seeing Joe Burrow hoist a Lombardi right there on the Ohio River. The Cleveland Browns. Browns fandom is truly an exercise in sports-induced masochism. Since the team's reanimation in
Is it them or the
1999,
Bears that
they've
went
been the
almost
league's
2
poster
years
child
without
for
winning?
dysfunction. Endless coaching carousels, horrendous drafting, and a quarterback graveyard that could fill a horror movie. From Tim Couch to Johnny Manziel to Deshaun Watson,
Johnny
every
Manziel.
next savior ends up a punchline. A
That's a
winless
name.
0-16 season in 2017 pretty much cemented their reputation as the NFL's premier sad sack franchise. Even when they finally notched a playoff win in 2020, the post-victory meltdown and Deshaun Watson gamble brought them right back to the soap opera drama. Still, Browns fans are an iron-willed bunch. They show up year after year, clinging to faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll break free from their personal Groundhog Day.
I rate
Though
it.
most of them secretly suspect that day may never come.
That's the soccer
The
team
Pittsburgh
I support. We're
Steelers.
like that.
The Steelers are the gold standard of NFL consistency. 6 Super Bowl rings, a gritty ethos, and a culture that just doesn't tolerate losing. This team hasn't had a losing season since 2003, which
Wow.
sounds unthinkable if you're a fan of the Browns or the Jets. Pittsburgh might be a smaller city, but its fans are
Yeah, but
everywhere,
they didn't win a
thanks
Super Bowl
to the
in that
exodus
time,
of
though,
steel
have they?
workers chasing jobs across the country.
Or did
They
they?
bring the black and gold wherever they go. The franchise's DNA is all about toughness and loyalty, backed by just 3 head coaches since 1969, like a family business that never changes the manager. If you
That's
challenge
very
them,
impressive.
they'll point to their well-stocked trophy case. But fans are antsy for their next playoff win, something they haven't gotten in almost a decade. The Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens' story began with a major dose of controversy. They were born when the Browns packed up and left for Baltimore in 1996.
Just did a
Since
video
then,
on
they've
them,
carved
that.
out a reputation as the NFL's baddest defensive bullies. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, highlighted by Super Bowl wins in 2000 and 2012. Baltimore fans thrive on that us against the world vibe, with their Pittsburgh rivalry filled with as much animosity as any in the league. The franchise prides itself on consistency, morphing from a defensive juggernaut to a Lamar Jackson-led offense that can light up a scoreboard.
I
The
was going to
Ravens
say
fans are
that his
impatient
neck
for another deep
quarterback Lamar
playoff
Jackson,
run.
but
Lamar's electric talent has yet to
I
yield a ring,
try
and the
and
city's itching
avoid
for
saying
that third
names and as
Lombardi.
much as I'd say.
Regardless, they'll always embrace a hard-hitting, punch-you-in-the-mouth first identity. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Trevor Lawrence.
Since their birth in
So I know
1995,
that
the
one.
Jags have mostly been an afterthought in the NFL. Their lone
Jags
shining
were
moment came in 2017 with the Saxonville
the
defense,
team I was gonna
which
support.
almost punched a ticket to the Super Bowl before Tom Brady did Tom Brady things. Outside of that near miracle, it's mostly been bad football, questionable ownership, and ongoing rumors about moving the franchise. Their fan base is small but fierce. A lot of Florida men in teal jerseys fiercely clinging to the idea that one day this team could rise beyond mediocrity. Now they're rolling with a young head coach and a general manager that looks like he's in high school. It's possible they might finally get it together, but until they consistently win, the Jags remain forgettable in the NFL. The Houston Texans. As the newest member of the NFL family, formed in 2002, the Houston Texans haven't compiled much of a legacy. They've had star power in J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, but never quite put it all together for a serious run at the Lombardi Trophy.
How did
The
their
Deshaun
quarterback
Watson
do?
scandal caused a franchise-wide reset.
Then
that
C.J.
sent them
Stroud the
spiraling.
past couple
But
years,
then
mate.
rookie
How
C.J.
was he?
Stroud
Yeah.
arrived in superhero fashion, abruptly turning a lifeless squad into a playoff contender. Suddenly, the Texans have real hope, something their fans have rarely experienced. They still lack a storied identity, and casual fans care little about them. But if Stroud keeps playing at a superstar level, Houston could finally carve out a new chapter. The Tennessee Titans. The Titans feel like the kings of mediocrity, with a few iconic
I've done a
moments
video on
sprinkled
a
in.
player for
The
the
most
Titans,
famous
but I can't remember
heartbreak,
his name.
Super Bowl 34, when Kevin Dyson was tackled one
He was a
agonizing yard short of a
unit.
touchdown as time expired. That single yard became the stuff of NFL lore. They've been competitive in waves, especially during Derrick Henry's bulldozing era.
Derrick
Even
Henry.
making a Cinderella run to the AFC Championship in 2019 before reality set in. Titans fans are used to this
Is he
pattern.
still there?
Just enough success to stir hope, followed by a playoff exit. Now that Henry's gone, the
Nope, I
rebuild
guess
cycle
not.
has begun again. Never
Did he
a
retire
comforting
or where
phrase
is
in
he?
Nashville. Passionate but perennially overlooked, Titans fans just want a season that doesn't end in heartbreak or maybe next year. It's a tradition they're desperate to break. The Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are one of the most fortunate franchises ever when it comes to quarterbacks. Peyton Manning made them title contenders practically every season and secured a ring in 2006.
So they're a very
Then
well-known
they
name over
seamlessly
here.
shifted to Andrew Luck, who looked destined for Canton, until he abruptly retired in 2019, leaving the entire organization in shock.
Yeah, but
Since
yeah.
then, it's been
that
quarterback
through
roulette with
injuries
mixed
or-
results. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, none could recapture that
So
Manning era magic.
didn't they draft
Now
someone last
it's Anthony
year?
Richardson's turn to chase the ghost of Peyton.
Yeah, they did.
He's
yeah.
extremely raw, incredibly inaccurate, but electric. And the fan base is hoping he can rejuvenate a franchise that's been drifting. Colts fans know they're one superstar quarterback away from contending. After all,
Or
that's
year
been the
before
blueprint
last,
in
I can't
Indy for
remember.
25 years.
Same year
If
CJ
Richardson
Stroud came
pans
in.
out, the next Lombardi might not be too far off. The Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers might as well be the poster child for can't catch a break. They had a passionate fan base in San Diego, but moved to LA in 2017, where they often play second fiddle to opposing teams in their own stadium. On the field, they've boasted stars like LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers, and now Justin Herbert. But their real specialty is losing heartbreakers, a tradition that never fails. Whether it's a flubbed field goal or a baffling coaching decision, the Bolts always seem to find a new way to let victory slip through their fingers. Their fans are small in number, but ride or die, forced to defend a franchise that's perpetually on the cusp of greatness and then trips over its own shoelaces. The
They're
Las
kind of
Vegas
like
Raiders.
them and Raiders to me
The
are.
Raiders
I say
are a team
Raiders
with a
over there.
legendary past and a penchant for chaos.
I call
in
them
the
like
present.
nothing teams.
Once the
Not that they're
NFL's
nothing. You
resident
just
pirates,
don't think of
they
them.
embraced being the league's outlaws, led by Al Davis, a silver and black flag, and a fan base known as the Black Hole, ready to throw down at a moment's notice.
But it's like you moved
They've
all the way
from
to
Oakland
Vegas.
to LA,
Crazy.
back to Oakland, and now to Vegas. But one thing never changes: the Raiders' swagger. Lately, though, that swagger's been overshadowed by front office turnover, underperforming stars, and coaching turmoil. Raiders Nation still believes a couple of big moves could return them to their 70s glory, ignoring that each big move has usually ended in heartbreak. Still, those silver and black diehards remain as intense as ever. The city may change,
Well, they
but
got a
the
loyal fan
rebellious
base,
spirit
especially
never
if
dies.
moving to
The Denver
Vegas.
Broncos. The Broncos' entire identity revolves around legendary
Completely forgot they
quarterbacks.
were a team.
When they've got one, like John Elway or Peyton Manning, they're Super Bowl darlings. When they don't, they've never been any good. After Manning rode off into the sunset, the Broncos flailed around for years, trying to patch the quarterback hole. Trading for Russell Wilson in 2022 was supposed to be a grand slam, but it turned into a comedic disaster
Well,
practically
he was at the
immediately.
Seahawks, wasn't he?
Instead of a perennial contender, they became the league's punchline. Yet the fan base remains incredibly loyal, selling out the stadium through thick and thin. Denver's not used to irrelevance, so patience is wearing thin. They know that once they find the next Elway or Peyton, they'll be back to hoisting Lombardi trophies atop the Rocky Mountains. The Kansas City Chiefs. For a long time, the Kansas City Chiefs never offended anybody. Always competitive, never the main event. Fans prided themselves on Arrowhead Stadium being the loudest place in the NFL, but deep playoff runs were rare. Then Patrick Mahomes
Until
showed
now.
up, turning them into a juggernaut that's claimed 3 Super Bowls. Andy Reid's offensive wizardry, paired with Travis Kelce's unstoppable routes, has established a new NFL dynasty. They bristle at any perceived disrespect, like suggesting the officials give them wins, and they remind everyone that as long as Patrick Mahomes is under center, they're squarely in the title conversation. The New York Giants. The Giants might
I'd
be
say
the league's
probably
ultimate wild card.
the
They
biggest
can be
name, though,
unwatchable for
surely.
years at a time. Then out of nowhere, they knock off an undefeated Patriots team in the Super Bowl. They've won 4 Lombardi trophies, and 2 of those came courtesy of the Tom Brady kryptonite known as Eli Manning. It's a fan base rooted in old-school pride, with Lawrence Taylor wrecking offensive lines and Bill Parcells barking orders. They even lay claim to the origin of Bill Belichick's defensive brilliance. But for much of the last decade, Big Blue has struggled mightily, churning out the most boring football in the league year after year. Giants fans live for reminding the Patriots that their perfect season ended in giant heartbreak, and other than their next Super Bowl in 2011, they've been mostly painful. Still, they cling to that mystical ability to shock the world when you least expect it. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Ah, my team. Here we
Eagles
go.
fans are famously intense. They're the people who once booed Santa Claus and pelted him with snowballs. If you
I
wear
like
the
it.
wrong jersey in their stadium, you've made a bad choice. For years, the Eagles were the bridesmaid of the NFL, coming agonizingly close to Super Bowl glory. Then 2017 happened, and they soared to the title behind backup-turned-legend Nick Foles, delivering one of the greatest underdog stories of all time. Now, after another Super Bowl, Eagles fans are more emboldened than ever, quick to remind everyone that they're probably the most well-run team in the NFL. The roster's
very good.
stacked, and the fan base is just as fearsome as
I'm
its
not just
reputation.
hopping on the
You
trend.
might hate them, but that only
I've gone
fuels
for
them
one
more.
city for all 4
The Washington
teams.
Commanders. The Commanders were once a proud 3-time Super Bowl champion franchise as the Redskins. Over the last few decades, though, they've become a cautionary
thing I know
tale
about
of
them
rotten
is,
ownership
Robert
and
Griffin
relentless
III.
off-field drama.
Oh, there
One
it
of
is.
the NFL's longest-running soap operas, complete with a name change and endless controversies. But the day Dan Snyder sold the team was one of the greatest days in franchise history. The new era brought a sense of stability, culminating in the emergence of Jaden Daniels, who instantly catapulted the Commanders back into relevance. A franchise once hemorrhaging fans, Washington is regaining a spark of optimism. They've got a fresh identity, a real quarterback, and a chance to bury the past. For a fan base that's endured as much drama as anyone, hope is a welcome change, and they'll happily chase it as far as Daniels can take it. The Dallas Cowboys.
I don't know what the controversies around
Meet America's team, famous for 3 Super Bowls in the 90s and about 30 years of hype since then. Cowboys fans proudly declare themselves contenders every season, only to see it implode in the playoffs. Or earlier. It's the same old script, but the fan base never seems to tire of it. Jerry Jones remains the figurehead everyone loves to hate. Dallas's biggest rival isn't another team. It's the towering expectations they set for themselves. Despite the lack of postseason success,
they're like the Man
Cowboys
United.
Still draw blockbuster ratings and dominate national conversation. That's the magic of the star on the helmet. You're relevant whether you're 13-4 or 4-13. Love him or hate him, there's no escaping the Cowboy spotlight. And that's just how their fans like it. The Detroit Lions.
The underdogs.
For decades, the Lions were the NFL's lovable losers. Never sniffing a Super Bowl, squandering Hall of Famers like Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, and leaving fans with eternal heartbreak. If you wanted misery, Detroit was where you got it. But now, under Dan Campbell, they've flipped the script. They're tough, they're fiery, and they actually win games. Lions fans, who spent a lifetime as the butt of jokes, are suddenly talking like they're NFL royalty. But still, after years of torment, you can't blame them for celebrating. They just need some postseason results to back up the talk. And the Motor City is more than ready for it. The Chicago Bears. One of the NFL's founding franchises, steeped in tradition and famed for their monsters on defense. Mention 1985 in any sports bar near Lake Michigan, and you'll hear stories of arguably the greatest defense ever assembled, led by Mike Ditka, Walter Payton, and Mike Singletary. Since then, it's been mostly gray skies. They've never had a great franchise quarterback, which is a shocking feat for such a large market. Fans cling to that monsters of the midway mentality, even if the modern defense is more teddy bear than grizzly. Despite the suffering, Bears fans are fiercely loyal. They're just begging for a quarterback who can throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns and bring the franchise back to glory. The Green Bay Packers. The Packers are one of the NFL's crown jewels. Publicly owned by fans, located in the tiniest market, yet historically dominant. They paraded from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers for 3 decades of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And now they're praying Jordan Love continues the tradition. Packers football is religion in Wisconsin. And Lambeau Field is the cathedral. The Cheeseheads will freeze their faces off in sub-zero temps and think it's paradise. They're so used to winning, they treat an 11-6 season like a personal insult to Vince Lombardi's legacy. Do they have front office gripes? Always. Fans claim the team never gives its quarterbacks enough help, yet the victories keep piling up. In Green Bay, the standard is basically Super Bowl or bust. And if you dare count them out, they'll just keep reminding you about how they own the Bears. The Minnesota Vikings.
Another team that was on my list to be a fan of.
Their heartbreak is practically a rite of passage. They lost all 4 of their Super Bowl appearances, missed a 27-yard field goal to lose a playoff game, and have a knack for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The Minneapolis Miracle was a temporary
we did a video
overshadowed
on that.
by the blowout loss that followed. The team has boasted legends like Randy Moss, Adrian Peterson, and Justin Jefferson, but they've never converted star power into a Lombardi. Despite the repeated gut punches, Vikings fans remain unbelievably loyal, showing up in purple and gold, fully expecting the next big heartbreak. And the Vikings are as smart as any team in football, so fans keep hoping. Maybe this is the year the script flips. Until then, they're masters at bracing for impact whenever the playoffs roll around. The Carolina Panthers. The Panthers might be a 90s expansion team, but they've packed plenty of drama into their short existence. They've made 2 Super Bowls, the 2003 Jake Delhomme squad, and the 2015 Cam Newton MVP run, but both ended in a heartbreak. Since Cam's decline, the Panthers have spun their wheels searching for a quarterback who can return them to relevance. Currently, Bryce Young is the new hope, and Panthers fans are praying he can sustain his late 2024 breakout. Their fan base might be smaller, but they're devoted, especially in the Carolinas. They've tasted success just enough to believe it can happen again, and they're tired of seeing the rest of the NFC South overshadow them. If Young is the real deal, the future...
I just realized, actually, I'm a year behind in my mind.
The Atlanta Falcons.
So I didn't do a single NFL video in 2024.
That infamous
and I remember doing a
a
video on Shroud in 2025, and now I'm behind.
Comedic references for eternity. Before that, Atlanta was a fun, high-octane offense featuring Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. But they've never delivered a Lombardi. This fan base is used to having their hopes dashed. usually by their own team blowing yet another
Yeah, but they
lead.
were in the-
Add in a rivalry with the Saints, who love reminding
They were in the
them that
Super
they've
Bowl,
got
only
zero
5
rings,
years ago, 6
and
years
you've got
ago?
a recipe for endless heartbreak. The Falcons are now in another rebuild, hoping that Michael Penix Jr. can develop into their next Matt Ryan. Falcons fans hang on to every flicker of optimism, but they're all too aware that at any moment, the scoreboard can flip from dream to nightmare. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers used to be a living punchline, an expansion team that kicked off their history
Until
with
Brady got
26
there, I
straight
guess.
losses and mostly stayed terrible. Outside of a brilliant 2002 Super Bowl run, they were the NFL's island of misfit toys. That changed in 2020, when Tom Brady arrived and brought a Super Bowl to the land of pirate ships and beach bars. Even after his exit, they've stayed competitive, thanks to Baker Mayfield
But isn't that
suddenly
because
remembering how to play
high-level
quarterback.
players wanted to
Some
come
fans
there
jumped on the
because Brady
bandwagon
was
as soon
there?
as Brady rolled into town, which annoys the diehards who survived the creamsicle jersey days and Josh Freeman's meltdown. Now the Bucs are in a weird spot,
God, who's
trying
gonna
to
be
prove
left?
they
What,
can
the
thrive
Cardinals?
post-Brady. The New Orleans Saints. The Saints were a
Saints.
bottom-tier franchise for many years, nicknamed the Aints with paper bags on fans' heads. Then Hurricane Katrina bonded the city and the team, culminating in Drew Brees and Sean Payton bringing home a Super Bowl in 2009.
Until
a
that
fairy tale ending
controversy, wasn't
drenched
it?
in Mardi Gras confetti. But success wasn't without drama. Bountygate dropped like a hammer, costing Payton a year on the sidelines. Then came the infamous 2018 NFC Championship no call, a missed pass interference so egregious it nearly broke the internet.
Yeah,
Saints fans still blame
how
the
was
refs
that
for stealing a
missed?
shot at another ring. With Breeze long gone, the franchise has been searching for their heir to that championship legacy. Bitterness has set in, but one constant remains: an undying hatred for the Atlanta Falcons. The Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are another team that's led a nomadic existence, bouncing from LA to St. Louis and back. In St. Louis, they had the greatest show on turf and a Super Bowl win. In LA, they went all in with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, snagging another Lombardi in 2021. Now the fan base is split between nostalgic St. Louis supporters who feel abandoned and a fresh wave of LA fans who appreciate shiny things. Competing for attention in Hollywood is no joke, but winning a Super Bowl definitely helped. McVay's offensive genius and the franchise's willingness
So the
to
amount
gamble
of
for
teams
star
that must
power
be
have
in
kept
LA
them
is
relevant.
crazy.
Even so, LA is a tough market to conquer, filled with celebrities and rival sports franchises. But if they keep pushing their chips in and winning, the Rams could finally cement their place in Tinseltown's crowded spotlight. The San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are NFL royalty, boasting 5 Super Bowl titles and legends like Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Jerry Rice. In the 80s and 90s, they were so good it felt unfair. Then the 2000s arrived, where they lived at the bottom of the league for a decade. In
They
the
got
past 12 years, though, they've appeared
dominated
in
in
3
the Super
Super
Bowl a couple
Bowls.
years ago,
However,
didn't they?
they've lost them all, leaving fans hungry to reclaim their place atop the throne. The quarterback spot seems to change every few years. Colin Kaepernick, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, and each time they flirt with a title but come up empty. Still, Niners fans remain loyal, spanning from the Bay Area to far beyond. They believe it's only a matter of time before the red and gold add a 6th Lombardi to the trophy case. The Seattle Seahawks.
God,
The
there's more
Seahawks
teams in
transitioned
the
from NFL
than I thought there
afterthought to
was.
league powerhouse
I know it's
overnight thanks
32.
to the
Is it
Legion of Boom
32?
defense and a dynamic
But
Russell
bloody hell.
Wilson. They demolished the Broncos in the 2013 Super Bowl, then famously lost the next one on a last-minute decision to throw instead of handing the ball to Marshawn Lynch, an agonizing moment that still haunts fans. Known as the 12s, Seattle fans create one of the loudest atmospheres in the league. Even after Wilson's departure, the Seahawks found ways to remain competitive. First with the Geno Smith surprise revival, and now handing the reins to Sam Darnold. While the NFC West doesn't run through Seattle the way it did a few years back, the Seahawks still have enough fight to keep everyone on notice. They might not be the juggernaut of old, but they won't go quietly either. The Arizona Cardinals.
God, we still got more. I thought
The
that was the end
Cardinals
of
are
it.
one of the least discussed teams in the NFL. They've been around forever but rarely make much noise. Every so often they pop up with a memorable storyline, Kurt Warner's magical 2008 run, for instance, but they've never won a championship. Sustained success is elusive, and the team's attempts to find a long-term quarterback haven't quite panned out. Kyler Murray has showed glimpses of stardom, then hits bumps in the road, leaving the franchise in limbo. Their fans are accustomed to being overlooked, which might be less painful than the public tragedies endured by, say, the Jets or the Lions, but it's still frustrating to hover in mediocrity. Unless the Cardinals find a way to build around their talent and keep it together, they'll stay in the NFL's background, rarely capturing the spotlight.
Very interesting. It was very interesting to kind of see especially since today I've done a video on the history of the NFL. I've done a video on how each team got their name, where they're relocated, all these type of things. And now we're seeing what the fan base is. I'm really now starting to get a picture of all these teams, and some teams that I don't like. There's a couple of teams there that I don't know, just part of me is starting to dislike them. And there's a few that I really like, but we'll see what happens when the season comes on. Let me know down in the comments your favourite team, your favourite part of being a fan of those teams, all those things like that down below. And of course, we're down the hit like button, hit the subscribe button. Bruce.